Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU, the mighty mix spammer, and this video is yet another one in which I ask you, the audience, about which faction shall I pick to play in my next playthrough. As you may or may not recall, last time I lost in my attempt to beat the game on endless difficulty level, so this is a dishonor, disgrace to me, and I shall avenge my fallen Siafu brethren who now vanished into the dark space of nothingness, but will come back one day and kill everything that exists, cause hey, why not? So those are my custom factions that I created so far, and I would like you to choose one of them out of the... stop it, whatever. Out of the 9 that you can see right here, only 9 of them that I want you to choose because I don't want to play as Asari for obvious reasons. Siafu I just played as. Virals are there only for nostalgia's sake and nothing more, while pillagers have missing description because it got bugged and deleted, and I don't want to play as a faction without a full description, as random as it may sound. So, let's go over the factions real quick. The first one is the Chantri. You probably remember it, those are the plants that are actually sapient, insane food production and paired up with amoeba affinity and tolerant, which means that those are the expansionists. They're gonna conquer more systems faster than anybody else in the entire galaxy and have more population faster than most other players. Maybe on par with Horatio, but even that's unlikely because their food production is great. However, they have really weak military, and yeah, they are anarchists, which is unhelpful. They are micromanagers. That's all because they value independence, freedom, and stuff like that. So it's all good with the lore. I will not go too deeply into that because I do not want this video to be too long, now do I? The other faction, the Sujeong, which is Korean for crystal, yet another old faction with sophon affinity, so that's additional bonus towards the science production. Those are sapient crystals for a change, which means that, well, they have cloning, which represents their food production, because as crystals they do not eat organic matter, they eat unorganic matter, which is kinda easy to find, is it not? And because they do not eat organic life, they can sell it as food to other factions, which is represented by another trait, which is giving them money. Now, they are also scientists because they are a very old race that really values this kind of scientific progress and stuff, and because they are crystals, they have optimal defense. They are designed to be more of a pacifistic faction because they did not really manage to get a good grasp on what violence is, since they never had to compete for food. But since I want to avenge my Siafu brethren, I would play them more aggressively if you were to pick them, as with any other good race I have over here. The next ones are the Illuminant, yet another good race, kinda unique one because there, in my opinion, are endless styles that you can incorporate when playing as this faction. They are good with any strategy whatsoever. They have pilgrims affinity, which might seem like a weak affinity because, yeah, it is probably the weakest one you can get. Even the technologies that are pilgrim specific are not too great. They're not too bad, but not too great. But I would show you, if I were to play as the Illuminant, how to use this affinity effectively, because there is one good way to do so. Now, those guys have militarists on free and builders on free. What does it mean? It means that the industry cost to anything they want to create, anything whatsoever, is severely reduced. So they have insane industry production. Well, they do not, but the same industry production that other races would get, they can use to much greater effectiveness. That's because those guys are made of pure energy, which is rather amazing. This is also represented by the tolerant trait because they originate from space, not a planet, so they can colonize anything they want. Hergods is just a filling trait, but I would like to explain it to myself that since they only know space and not the planets, they picked their first planet to colonize poorly. Now, the next ones are the Templars. I have to admit, since I'm giving myself a single vote to vote for a faction that I would like to play in my next playthrough, either those guys or the other ones I will talk about later will get my vote. The Templars used to be cravers, so they are kind of similar in Siafu to in this regard, but they... well, a small group of cravers was abducted by Sujeong. Well, not really abducted, but whatever, you know what I mean. And actually, they deserved some kind of positive emotions, even more than that. Sadly, because of acts of violence, etc, etc, they were burned. They used to be organically mechanical, like the Cravers, original Cravers are. Now they are only mechanical. And yeah, they have kind of messed up psyche. They love life above all, and they struggle to protect it, even at the cost of war and death, which is kinda contradiction, but that's who they are based on. A contradiction. So they have hissho affinity, which is, in my opinion, reflecting well on their kinda messed up psyche, because they can get enthusiastic quite well when they feel like they are doing something well. They are optimistic, they have revenge, fearless warriors, everything is pretty self-explanatory and very needed for this kind of race, in my opinion. They have naive and symbiosis, this is reflected by the loving nature, and so on and so forth. They have solo travelers too. I do not remember why I gave them that, but there probably was a reason. I just don't remember it. Unlike colonists, that's because the world got burned to ashes. This is also represented by dust starved, because yeah, everything got burned. Well, there's plenty of dust, I guess. Well, no, there are plenty of ashes, no dust. But they are also, you know, they have crowded planet and big fleets, that's the reminiscent of the Craver origin, and they have heroic medicine because it's easy to repair something that has no organic tissue, you just need a couple of wrenches. And they have beautiful dishonor because, yeah, they struggle to protect life, even if they have to sacrifice themselves, they will do it. Next ones, Judicators of Lyn. You have seen them before, but I have made some pretty big changes to this faction. Now it is quite a bit different. It has horatio affinity, which I believe goes well with this faction. In fact, in my head, this faction is kinda similar to, you know, Final Fantasy Tactics? You know the judges in this game? Those guys are kinda like those judges. Completely awesome! Like, really. Now, because they kinda still act like judges even though they were kinda expelled from the Empire, but they still like to think of themselves as judges, they have many traits that reflect that. For example, blockade brokers, breakers, and diplomats and whatnots. They have legendary heroes, which is a very expensive trait, but it really suits this faction in my opinion. They are spendthrifts, however, because, you know, they like luxury and stuff. So they would be interesting to play as well. Of your cooperation, my friendly fun guy with small mind control abilities. The main businessman of the entire galaxy, let's say, because mind control kinda helps you getting a good deal. So that's reflected by all of those amazing traits. They are even better than United Empire in terms of dust production, and they do have United Empire affinity, which is great. They also have blockade breakers, a couple of technologies, terraform planet, yada yada. Unfortunately, they have problems with using tools, so they are not the best when it comes to constructing ships or even planetary improvements, so that's a problem. Polaris are interesting because they are a very small, tiny race, but they have this unique trait in which they all share emotions. Not thoughts, it's not a hive mind, but they share emotions. So if you kiss one, then they will all feel excited and kind of warm and fuzzy inside, and if you hurt one, they will all feel pain and suffer from it. This kind of makes them very restless and aggressive race, even though they are not evil by trade. So they kind of tend to attack first just to try and hope that they can avoid any pain that other races could deal to them. So they are by all means militaristic, they benefit from devouring other races before they can head them, but at the same time pessimistic, yeah, you know, when you can get hurt by just somebody you do not even know scratching themselves too hard, then you can get quite pessimistic. Same goes with Further Holes, it is reflecting their traits. Feeble Warriors, same thing, etc, etc. Next is the Ouroboros Consortium. So those are the cybrids, the mind of AI, flesh and body of a man. They are interesting because they were created by the Endless while the schism was already going on. And because of this, they are great egomaniacs, because they witnessed the end of the Endless and they believe that because of this, they are now the next Endless and the galaxy is rightfully theirs. So, because of this egomaniac nature, they have lots of traits that represent that. They have revenge, they have optimistic, stuff like that. And they have also tried to give them as many optimal per se traits as I could, because they do have their AI nature. They think like AIs, even though their body is actually flesh. However, the problem is they use a lot of dust, and that would be because their circuits and their neural circuits, you know, their brains and stuff, actually are made of dust, so they're not completely natural and they require dust to survive. They have automatus affinity, which is the most interesting affinity that is still balanced in this game, in my opinion, and just because of this would be great for me to show those guys. Actually, they are one of the 3 factions I would probably cast a vote for if I were to pick one. And the last but by no means least are the Radiants. With amoeba affinity, they are made of antimatter, which means that the entire galaxy is kind of dangerous place for them to live in. However, because of this, they are also amazing when it comes to science and warfare. They have scientists free, obviously. They have entrepreneurs, or however you're supposed to pronounce it, because you know how expensive antimatter is. I don't remember if it was counted in billions or something to produce a microgram of antimatter in our world currently, but even in the future I imagine antimatter will be still very expensive, and they can just give it for free because, yeah, they are full of it. So that's nice. They also have deadly weapons because, yeah, it's antimatter. Militarists, same deal. Fast travels because antimatter is actually the best fuel you can imagine in the entire galaxy. And that's about it for the positive traits. Negative ones reflect their vulnerable nature, because if they get rid of their expensive protective suits and stuff like that, then they just spontaneously combust because they are made of antimatter and most of the galaxy is not. So that's why they have feeble warriors and stuff. However, overall this is still a very interesting faction that I really like. So that's about it. All of those 9 factions I listed are right for the taking, so please do cast your vote on which faction you think I shall play next. My favorites are probably the Templars, Ouroboros Consortium, and also Radiants. Mostly on the Templars side, I guess, but Ouroboros Consortium is also very nice, and Radiants right behind it. But please, do not be biased because of me, vote for your personal favorite. Tell me what you think in the comments, it is very important for me. I'll wait with the next playthrough until I have enough votes. It was PANCZASU, the mighty mix spammer, thank you for watching, and I will see you online.